Late at night, long after the hum of daytime voices faded and the click of heels on polished floors had stilled, Mr. Thomas arrived. He didn't wear a suit or carry a laptop. Just a cart with a squeaky wheel, a ring of keys, and hands that had known decades of honest work. His presence was quiet, unnoticed, by design. In a building filled with ambition and noise, he was the silence that followed. He moved from office to office with practiced rhythm, emptying bins, wiping down desks, straightening chairs. The nameplates on the doors, Vice President, Chief Strategy Officer, Managing Director, meant little to him. He had cleaned these offices long enough to know that titles didn't always make people kind. To most, he was just the janitor, a figure in the background, someone to nod at without remembering. But he noticed everything. The leftover takeout containers from long nights. The withering flowers someone had stopped watering. The framed family photos that sometimes disappeared over time. He saw the exhaustion in the clutter, the loneliness in the silence. Still, he never lingered. He had a job to do, and pride in doing it well. Mr. Thomas was a man of few words, but of deep consistency. Every night, he showed up. Not because someone cheered him on, but because he believed that even in the smallest tasks, there was purpose. He made things clean again. He left spaces a little better than he found them. And no one ever really saw him. Until she did. Rachel Morgan was always the last to leave. Her office, high on the 19th floor, stayed lit long after the others went dark. On the outside, she was everything the world applauded, driven, polished, successful. Inside, she was tired. The kind of tired ambition couldn't fix. Divorce papers sat unsigned in her drawer. Her parents' calls went unanswered. She lived in a sleek apartment that echoed with silence. Work had become her shelter, and she clung to it like a life raft. One night, after a long call that ended with her pretending not to cry, she glanced up through blurry eyes. A figure moved beyond the glass wall of her office, steady, slow. Mr. Thomas. She had seen him before, in that peripheral way people do when they're not really looking. But now, something about him stopped her. He was wiping the outer window, humming softly, his face calm, almost content. He didn't see her watching. For a moment, their worlds collided, not with words, but with something quieter. She noticed how carefully he moved, how he seemed to treat the building like something that mattered. No one had ever cleaned her window while she was still there. It felt personal. She didn't say anything that night. But the image stayed with her. In a world where everyone was climbing, competing, rushing, here was a man who simply showed up. Not for recognition, but for the quiet dignity of doing his job well. And for the first time, she wondered about his story. It was almost midnight when Rachel realized she'd left her phone behind. She sighed, turned her car around, and took the elevator back up to the office. The floor was mostly dark, save for the soft hum of a vacuum and the faint scent of lemon polish. As she pushed open her office door, she froze. Mr. Thomas was there, kneeling beside her desk. One of her picture frames had fallen, face down on the carpet. He looked up, startled. "Didn't mean to scare you," he said gently. "This slipped off the edge." Rachel stepped closer. He held the frame carefully in both hands, like something fragile. It was a photo of her and her ex-husband, laughing on a beach years ago. She hadn't looked at it in months. "Beautiful family," he said. She swallowed, caught off guard by the kindness in his voice. "They left," she said, more to the room than to him. He nodded slowly, as if he understood more than she said. "Pain doesn't mean it's over," he murmured. "Just means you're still trying." The words hung in the air longer than she expected. No one at work ever spoke to her like that. No platitudes, no awkward silence, just truth, spoken with the softness of someone who had lived enough life to know what mattered. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then he stood, handed her the frame, and smiled. "Have a good night, Ms. Morgan." She held the picture to her chest, heart a little heavier, and strangely, a little lighter too. The conversations became more frequent after that night. Rachel stayed later, not always because of work, but because she found comfort in those few quiet moments when Mr. Thomas passed by. They talked about little things at first: the weather, the long hours, the coffee that always tasted burnt after 9 p.m. But slowly, his story began to unfold. He had been cleaning offices for over 40 years. Raised 3 kids on his own after his wife passed. Never missed a day, even when he was sick. No retirement plan. No applause. Just a belief that showing up mattered. One evening, as Rachel sat cross-legged on the floor of her office, sorting through old files, he leaned against the doorframe and told her how he used to dream of being a teacher. But life had other plans, he said with a soft laugh. Bills don't wait for dreams. That night, something shifted in Rachel. She looked around her sleek office, the awards, the untouched books, the sterile art on the walls. It all felt hollow. Here was a man who had given everything, and no one ever asked him what he needed. She stood up, walked over, and said quietly, "Do you think we could start right here?" He blinked. "Start what?" She smiled. "Something better. A program. Job training. A chance for people like you to be seen, to be heard, to lead." For the first time in years, she felt purpose, not in numbers, but in people. And he just nodded, eyes misting, whispering, "I think we already have." A year later, the office lobby looked nothing like it used to. What was once cold and corporate now felt alive, buzzing with voices, handshakes, and stories that mattered. Banners lined the walls: second shift initiative, dignity through opportunity. What began as a late-night conversation had grown into a full program, offering mentorship, training, and career pathways for custodial staff and overlooked workers across the city. Rachel stood in the back, unnoticed for once, watching as Mr. Thomas stepped up to the small stage at the center of the room. He wore a crisp navy suit, slightly too big in the shoulders, and his hands trembled as he held the microphone. The room quieted. "I spent most of my life cleaning spaces like this," he began, voice low and steady. "Never thought I'd be standing in one, being asked to speak." Laughter and applause rippled gently through the crowd. He looked toward Rachel. "It only takes one person to look at you and see more than your job. To ask, 'What do you dream about?' Ms. Morgan did that for me. And now, we're doing that for others." His voice broke on the last word. The room stood, clapping not just for him, but for the idea that people, no matter where they start, deserve to be seen. As the event ended, attendees passed by a framed photo hung in the hallway, Rachel and Mr. Thomas standing side by side, smiling. Beneath it, engraved in brass, "We started right here."